Hey there, ghouls. It's the Creepmas season, and I know this is a very hectic time of year for all of us, but I'd like to invite you to kick back, relax, pour yourself a hot cocoa, and let me read you a story. Every night from now through December 24th, I will read you a chapter from my new holiday creature feature, Christmas Creeps from the Deep. So tune in and hang out with me at 7 p.m. Eastern Time every night for a new chapter. Let's get to it, shall we? Chapter 17. I'll be home for Fishmas. Earl Frost had never sewn up a fish wound before, but he read about fish surgery on the Fancier's forum, and he'd watched a couple videos online, and now he hoped that was enough. Granny sat in an Al's shopping cart pouring bottled water on the fish Granny's face and gills. Artie Sweeney poured water over her body. Holly laid out the sewing kit, then put her hands next to Earl's on Bucky's spear. They prepared to yank. "You ready?" Earl looked at Holly. They were both shaking. "As I'll ever be." "All right, on three," he said. 1, 2, 3. Shriek. Granny Fish tensed, then collapsed back onto the pavement, exhausted. She could have taken all their heads off with one slash of her giant claws, but she was smart. She knew they were trying to help. Earl threw the spear into the bushes, and when he turned around, Holly handed him a bottle of peroxide. He squirted it onto the wound, doing his best to disinfect it. "Use the whole bottle just to be safe." She picked up a bottle of rubbing alcohol and swished a sewing needle around in it while Earl finished. "How do you always know just what to do?" Earl said. "Manicuring isn't all polish and glitter. We disinfect a lot," she said. "I've been thinking, maybe I should do the stitching. I won a ribbon for my 4-H Sew Fun project back in the day. That was a long time ago, but you don't look like you sew much. No offense, sugar." "I can't sew at all. It'd definitely be better for the fish if you did it." Earl was relieved. Holly put on rubber gloves and threaded the needle. Earl moved in next to Fish Granny and gently spread apart the scales, revealing the deep gash in the skin underneath. Holly got in there and didn't hesitate. Her hands moved, confident and fast, but gentle. She sewed that Fish Granny up in no time. The creature's flesh was surprisingly soft. Guess that's why they needed such thick armor. When Holly finished, she squeezed some peroxide on the stitches, let it fizz, and emptied a whole tube of antibacterial goop on the wound. Holly rubbed it around gently with her gloved index finger. Then Earl let go of the scales and they closed over the wound. And that was it. It was done. "That's the best we can do for her. Let's hope it's enough." Holly pulled off her rubber gloves with a stretchy slap. "Now, how are we going to move her? She's too big to lift, and we can't pull Bucky's trailer. Everyone's cars are parked on the street. We can't risk going down there." She pointed at the fishmen, still lined up on the shore, parping and clicking. They grew more agitated and desperate by the minute. The Mariah and all the speakers wouldn't hold them back for much longer. "I got it covered." Al rolled up with an empty pallet jack. It had extra long forks and was bigger than the one the fireworks were on. "If you roll her to the side a bit, we can get this under her. It's rated for up to 2,000 pounds. "This one got brakes?" Earl asked. "Better ones," Al said. "In my defense, the fireworks usually only go as far as the display by the cash register." "All right, let's do it," Earl said. A few folks were brave enough to come out of Al's to help move Fish Granny onto the pallet jack. Ted and Fred in their matching red union suits, Darlene Stump, old Mr. Hanson, the Zitty kid from Sporting Goods, and all the grannies in the Misty Pines Thursday Night Knitting Club. Everyone lined up next to the injured beast, ready to heave ho. "You sure about this, Earl?" Darlene asked. "She knows we're trying to help," Earl said. They looked at Earl, then at each other, then moved in next to the Fish Granny. Matty Pickens and the mayor, still in his hockey pads, poked their heads out of City Hall when they saw the crowd gathering. "What's going on?" Matty Pickens asked, but went white as a sheet when she saw the big old fish. "We've got a new plan. Can you give us a hand?" Earl said. "Tell Gloria to stay inside. I need her to work that sound system one more time." Matty nodded and came out to help, even though she was coated in a cold sweat from the terror. So did the mayor, but Earl suspected it was only because he couldn't chicken out in front of his voters. He was going to have enough problems waiting on his desk Monday morning. The wrecked town square, the burning fracking plant. He didn't need to add being the chicken who ran from the monsters to the list. Everyone lined up and put their hands on the Fish Granny. Al moved the pallet jack into position. "Hold on," Earl whispered to the beast. She clicked and laid her head down. "Ready? Push!" Everyone pushed. Al slid the pallet jack into the gap between the scales and the sidewalk. Then everyone retreated, putting plenty of space between them and the fish. But the job was done. Granny Fish was loaded up and ready to go. Now what? Artie Sweeney said. Now I'm going to take her down there. Earl pointed to the wall of irritated fishmen by the water. Just make sure Gloria turns off the music when I give the signal. We need complete silence. You sure about this? Holly squeezed his arm. There's no other way. Earl couldn't just send Fish Granny rolling. She'd gain speed, fly out of control. If she crashed and got injured or died, the fishmen would rip Holiday Lake to shreds. Someone has to make sure she arrives safe. You hide at Al's until it's done, because if this doesn't work, I'm all out of ideas. Holly wrapped her arms around Earl and squeezed so tight his head felt like it was going to pop off. You come back safe, you hear me? I will try my best, you can count on that, he said. You better, because I've got plans for that face of yours. Holly kissed his cheek, which burned hot with desire under her lips. Earl pushed the impure thoughts away. He needed to stay focused, now more than ever. He turned to the pallet jack and fiddled with it to get a feel for it. Then he went to Granny and hugged her. You're shaking, son, she said. I'm not sure I can do this, he said. This is your moment. You have to rise to the occasion, she said. You always know what to say. How are you always so calm in a crisis? Unfortunately, it's a learned skill. I've had a lot of practice, Granny said. Now promise me you'll come back safe in one piece. I'll try my best. Better get on with it then, Granny said. Yeah, I better. Earl turned to Mattie Pickens and the mayor. You two keep your eyes on me. When I give the signal, have Gloria turn off the music. We need it so quiet those things can hear a pin drop. Got it? We got it, Mattie said. Everyone else retreated to the safety of Al's. Even Holly, who blew Earl a lucky kiss before she went inside. All right, it's time to get you home, Earl said to the fish granny. Then he grabbed the jack handle and steered her toward the lake, slow and steady. He didn't look back. He didn't want to think about all the people counting on him. He didn't want to think about what was at stake or what would happen if he messed this up. He didn't look ahead either, because he'd want to run away, because he had to be nuts to be walking toward an army of angry fishmen who could cut his head off with one swat. He put one foot in front of the other and dealt with whatever obstacle was immediately in front of him. He focused on navigating the maze of broken things between him and the lake. He focused on pushing the granny fish slow and steady toward the shore. He focused on keeping her from rolling too fast, even though his muscles ached. He moved, and after what felt like hours, Earl made it to Main Street. He wheeled the fish granny to the wall of fishmen, and they didn't see him or her, not yet. Their heads were tilted up at the sky as they called out to their granny, which was good. Everything was going according to plan. By the time Earl moved Fish Granny into place and Gloria shut off the music, Earl would be halfway back to Al's. Earl quietly lined the pallet jack up with the boat launch by the dock, where the sidewalk sloped down into an icy concrete ramp. The rest of the shore was rocky, so this would be the easiest place for her to get back in the water. He moved her as close to it as he could without the other fish noticing. He patted the fish granny, and she raised her head to look at him. Well, as much as a blind creature can look. And he whispered, Here you go, Granny. Your kids should be able to take you from here. Earl backed away. Then he jumped up and down and waved his arms. This was the signal. Gloria would turn off the music any second now. Earl's job was finished, so he turned to go. Hi-ya! Bub Varney came out of nowhere. He had a blinking plastic knockoff lightsaber, the tag said Fight Light, over his head. He aimed it at the fish granny and screamed at the top of his lungs, Run, Earl! I'll cover you! I'll slay the beast! Bub, no! Earl grabbed the blinking sword. Give it to me! Turn it off now! Bub Varney was oddly strong for an old guy, and he wouldn't let go. Run, Earl! Tell Gloria I love her and I would have married her if things had turned out different. Tell her I did this for her. Shut up and give me the damn light, Bub. Earl yanked, but Bub turned and spun like a real Jedi, and the light slipped out of Earl's hands. I'm saving you. Why are you so salty? Bub said. You are not saving me. You're messing everything up. The plan has changed. Earl grabbed that sword one more time and yanked, desperate, and Bub finally let go. Not because Earl was skilled at taking weapons from old men, but because Bub had frozen solid with fear. He stood still, like a Bub popsicle, staring at something. Earl turned around. Every fisheye in the place was looking at Bub's blinking fight light. And worse, the fishmen were coming at them. Damn it, Bub! A big white claw came down on Bub, and red blood spurted into the air. No! Earl threw that blinking fight light at the attacking fishman and grabbed Bub. He wrapped his arms around the old man, picked him up, and ran. Claws cut air all around them, slicing open Earl's gingerbread suit. He carried Bub to the snowbank on the other side of Main Street. He laid him down and checked his wounds. Earl looked back. The creatures were distracted. They had that fight light surrounded, and they were clawing it down to blinking maiden china shreds. Bub was white as a ghost, but he was old with liver spots, so Earl couldn't tell if that was normal pale or blood loss pale. Bub! Bub! Bub's hand went to his shoulder, to a cut in his puffer jacket. It was wet with blood. Shit, Earl huffed. Watch your language. Granny hears you talking like that, she'll wash her mouth out with soap. Bub still had some sass, so he still had a chance. Earl ripped the foam arm off his gingerbread suit and tied it as tight as he could around Bub's shoulder. Keep your hands here and press, and stay quiet. Earl stood up. He waved his hands in the air and hopped around, up and down, wiggling like that noodle guy down at the used car lot. Turn off the music, he said, loud, but not too loud, hoping his voice would carry. Mariah Carey still shrieked from all the speakers, so Earl kept jumping and waving, one eye on the square, one on the fishmen, but the Mariah didn't stop. Maddie and the mayor were supposed to be watching him, but nope. The fishmen had destroyed the fight light. They licked the air, sniffing for Bub and Earl. Earl was out of time. They had no choice but to run. Earl grabbed Bub by the jacket. I'm sorry, this is going to hurt. He pulled Bub hard, trying to maneuver him over the snow pile, but it was slow going. The pile was high from the plows and extra hard and icy from thawing and refreezing. Leave me, son. Save yourself, Bub said. Ow! I'm not leaving you. Leave me, I'm a goner. Ow, 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 Bub yelped. Gloria, I love you. Shut up or we're dead. Bub didn't shut up. He moaned. He was surprisingly melodramatic for an old guy, but Earl couldn't leave him. The fish would rip him to shreds. Earl dug in and yanked Bub up over the snow pile until his butt hit something and Earl's face hit ice. He rolled over and saw a big fish man lumbering toward them. Earl had backed right into it. It was white as the snow. Earl hadn't even seen it. When Earl sat up, ready to run, he hit a wall of white scaly knees. Bub's whimpering had led the fishmen right to them. They were surrounded. Their luck had run out. The big one raised its giant claws and hissed, and all the others did the same. Earl rolled on top of Bub to shield him and braced for the claws. Earl saw a big flash of white. The ground shook. Angry hisses filled the air, but claws didn't come down. Earl mustered the courage to look. The fish granny had planted her big fat leg in front of Bub and Earl. She was protecting them from the other fish. She raised her massive head to the sky, opened her huge spiky tooth-lined mouth, and parped as loud as she could. Every fishman immediately shifted, moving toward her from all directions, and they barked like happy seals. They sounded joyous. Unfortunately, Earl and Bub were stuck, and fishmen were moving in from all directions. Bub still didn't shut up. Oh, Gloria, he cried. Our love will never be. Earl clapped his hand over Bub's mouth. I said, shut up. The fish creatures swarmed all around them. Fish Granny and the others clicked and parped and barked back and forth. Then the creatures shifted again. One by one, they moved away. They shuffled out onto the ice and went back into the water. A few of them stayed close to Fish Granny. They were bigger than the others. Daughters? Future Fish Grannies in training? Earl couldn't say. But if he lived to see tomorrow, he was sure as hell going to watch some nature shows and try to figure it out. Once the smaller fishmen had gone, Fish Granny turned to Earl and pressed her massive, spiky, tooth-lined mouth to Earl's face. It was so big she could have swallowed Earl up like a cheap chicken nugget. Fish Granny's mouth opened, and a big wet tongue rolled out and licked Earl's face. She rubbed her cheek against him, then turned to the water. The daughters positioned themselves around her and leaned in, helping her lumber toward Holiday Lake, toward home. Earl held so still he was barely breathing. Bub had smartly frozen solid in silent terror, and they watched the fishmen shuffle out onto the ice across the frozen surface of Holiday Lake. The big fish helped their granny to the boat ramp, where she belly slid down the icy concrete and out onto the lake. They helped her move across the ice. Then one by one, they slipped into the big hole the fireworks had made. Granny Fish went last. She watched and waited as the rest of her family disappeared under the waves. It's like she was standing guard, making sure they made it home safe. Her tentacles vibrated and glowed, and then, once they were all gone, she put her face in the water and slid in, graceful and easy despite her massive size. The only thing shimmering white in the moonlight now was the icy blanket covering Holiday Lake. The fishmen were gone. Earl sat in that snowbank with a wide-eyed Bub Varney for a few minutes, still not believing it was over. Suddenly, Mariah Carey cut off mid-song. The speakers went silent. "Thanks, Gloria," Earl huffed. "Better late than never, I guess." All right, ghouls, come back tomorrow for Chapter 18, the final chapter of Christmas Creeps from the Deep.